The Toronto Raptors have been accused of a lot of things: middling, directionless. But one of the main charges this offseason from several NBA analysts has been that the Toronto Raptors are quite top heavy and quite expensive. There's a part of their roster that will catch your eye when you look at their cap sheet, and it's their top five highest paid players: Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes, obviously at the top. Not far behind are your 25, $26 million plus players like Jakob Pertl, Emmanuel Quickly, and RJ Barrett. But what's getting ignored is the bench. And I believe that the Toronto Raptors' depth is insane. And I say this as somebody who has watched every single Raptor game since the year 2000. There have been some very deep teams, and there have been some very depth deprived teams. And if you're a Raptor fan who started watching in 2019, that 2019 team was not depth deprived. In fact, that 2019 team was so deep, they had something called a bench mob. And that bench mob was insane. It includes, a player right now who is in the starting lineup, which is Jakob Pertl. But what made that depth and that bench mob so insane is how they were routinely able to sustain, if not extend, advantages and leads created by the starting lineup, which was also very, very good. And the Toronto Raptors, following Kawhi's departure, Serge's departure, they didn't get anything back for these guys. Kyle left, very little came back. Kawhi left, nothing came back. Danny left, nothing came back. Serge, like Marc Gasol, these guys got old, they left, and you didn't get anything back. And all that depth that was supposed to come up the charts, like your David Johnsons, doesn't work out. Your Delano Bain, doesn't work out. Malachi Flynn, doesn't work out. Norman Powell, you trade him for Gary Trent Jr., who by then leaves in free agency for nothing. Fred leaves. And it's been interesting to see how the Raptors have navigated life post Fred VanVleet's decision, because every single trade has been with purpose and intention. The purpose has been to bring back flexibility and players who fit on Scotty's timeline, but also you be surprised, not surprised, you would be wise to note that the Raptors have pulled off quite a few of these 1-for-2, 1-for-3 types of moves. They've also made pretty good use of their draft picks, of which they have had quite a few. They made 4 selections in last year's draft and picked up someone in the undrafted heap. And I think most of us can say we're pretty excited about the 5 players who were rookies last year for the Toronto Raptors. It was a pretty good group. And if you continue to look at this team, you'll notice that there's quite a bit of depth down the line. Now, if we remove the 5 starters from the equation, I want to bring you to a fantastic stat, which is that among the players that are currently on your bench who played for you last year, which includes guys like Ochai Agbaji, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, Jonathan Mobo, right? The 6 key guys off your bench this year, 6 of the 8 key guys off your bench who played for you last year, they started over 150 games last year. 150 games they probably won't have to start this year, because my view on this is that either Grady or CMB are going to be your 6 men, right? You move forward down the line, you've got so much depth behind them. And while nobody really sticks out like a Peyton Pritchard, and no one is quite that proven, there's no like big ex all-star. You didn't trade for DeMar DeRozan and, partition him off as your 6th man. It's not a lot of players that people know about, especially people who covered the NBA as casually as some people covered the NBA. And it's just not a lot of people that these are not names like Cooper Flag. These are not names like Victor Wembanyama. These are not the highest of the highest draft picks, but the people who've actually spent the time, like myself, who've done the college analysis on these players, who've really dissected the game film from last year's G League and also last year's Raptors, even when the wheels were off and this team was spiraling into the middle of nowhere last year towards the end of the year. The people who've actually watched this team play basketball, I think those people would tell you there's a lot of talent on this bench. There's a lot of talent on this bench. So I want to take you through that bench. This is that bench. Now, please look at these players. These are the players who are not starting for you this year: Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Grady Dick, Colin Murray Boyles, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Ochai Agbaji, Jamison Battle, Jonathan Mobo. Now, I'm leaving out from just what I'm talking about right now Elijah Martin, Chucky Hepburn, AJ Lawson, David Roddy, and Ulrich Shamshi. I may be high on some of those players. I may not be very high on some of those players. What I can tell you though is that I named 8 players. 8 plus 5 is what? 13. You are 13 deep. I did not even put Garrett Temple on this graphic. Shout outs to Garrett Temple, OG. But the point here is there's a considerable amount of talent here. How do I know there's so much talent here? I'm willing to bet at least 4 of these players, at least 4, if not more, probably 4, would start for the Milwaukee Bucks, who are projected to be a playoff team. Some of these players could legitimately start in the Eastern Conference there's quite a few teams, because they fulfill roles. And the interesting thing about this is every single player on your screen right now is young, including Sandro Mamukelashvili, who's just 26 years old. Ulrich Shamshi, who's 19 years old. Colin Murray Boyles, who's 21 years old. Jonathan Mobo, who's 23 years old. Grady Dick, who's like 22. Jameson Battle, 23, 24. David Roddy is not old. To everyone who is always complaining about the fact that the Raptors lost that pick in the Thaddeus Young deal, I'll let you know right now, you got a guy on an Exhibit 10 deal, and David Roddy, who is very likely and would have been my bet on who the Raptors would have picked with that pick you ended up trading. So you have a lot of you have a lot of players that I believe in. Do they fit? I think there's some evidence to suggest they do. They have some chemistry. So I want to take a look at some of the strengths. Casting Roddy is 24. Thank you very much. So in terms of the strengths, they are multi-positional. Whether you are talking Jacoby Walter, who can guard 3 positions, whether you're talking, well, we'll leave Grady Dick out of this. Ochai Agbaji, I think, can comfortably guard 1 through 4, right? Colin Murray Boyles, I'm comfortable saying can guard 2 through 4. Comfortable. And I think with some strength, he might be able to guard 5. I'm on record saying I think Jonathan Mobo might have been the second best defender on this team last year. He is clearly multi-positional. We have seen him shut down. We have seen him resist at the rim with centers, and that can only get easier with strength. And he is getting stronger. But we have seen him shut down in isolation without help. Tyrese Maxey, Anthony Edwards. Well, if you can deal with them, you can deal with Case and Wallace, no problem. Okay. So you have multi-positional defenders. You have guys who can really guard up and down 2-3 positions. And at least you have a few of those guys, high tools defenders. You have shooting. Grady Dick is a good shooter. He may not have shot well so far into his NBA career. He's not a lights out shooter yet, but he is a good shooter. And Jacoby is a good shooter. Take out the first 6 games of last year where he's coming off that shoulder injury. He shot borderline 40% for the rest of the season. And he shot, I want to say 42% after the All-Star break. He was very good. He was a very good shooter, to the point where I was very comfortable saying if he caught it and it was open, it was going in. Jameson Battle is a lights out shooter. He might be the best shooter among the 3, right? That's 3 guys who can really, really shoot. I think Jamal Shed has taken some strides. I was talking to somebody who's been around a little bit with Shed this summer, and they said this guy is a man on a mission. He's going to be like the most improved Raptor. Now, I don't buy that. I don't think Jamal Shed's going to be the most improved Raptor. But if he can improve 10, 15%, that already goes a really long way, because, I'm going to be honest, there were quarters last year where I believe Jamal Shed was controlling the game. There's obviously a huge factor here, which is this guy that you brought in, Sandro Mamukelashvili. I have a lot of high hopes on him. He's rocking out for Georgia right now. Shout out to anyone who's watching the Eurobasket. He looks good, man. He looks athletic. He looks bouncy. He's a great shooter, very good shooter last year, who shot north of 36% last year from 3. He is the type of archetype you just simply have not had. You have had a big who can shoot, but you haven't really had a stretch big like this in a while. And he's not a bad defender. He's not a great rim protector, but he's not a bad defender. So continuing on, you've got high IQ and motor. And I think that is important. Sometimes you have motor, i.e. Precious Achua, Chris Boucher, but you don't have high IQ. Sometimes you have high IQ, but you don't have high motor. You have a lot of that. with these players, Jamal Shed, Jamison Battle, uh, Colin Murray Boyles, Jonathan Mobile. These are all high IQ, high motor players, and motor and IQ are two things I value very much. You have valuable archetypes. I talk a lot about basketball archetypes and player archetypes, the hybrid forward, the roll man, the versatile wing, movement shooters, etc. I think you have a lot of the valuable future proof type of archetypes. You also have, some budding players, Ulrich, Elijah Martin. Who knows what becomes of these two players? But if they pop, they are also very valuable. That staunch, multi-positional guard who can set screens like Elijah Martin and be a beast in transition. The Ulrich Shamshi, the hyper shot blocking, 7-footer in the paint who can run like a gazelle. Like these are valuable archetypes. If these players materialize, you're betting on major upside with some of these players. You have lineup flexibility. I think there's 8 to 10 conceivable ways that you can use 5 players of the bunch that I listed. I'll give you some examples. You have Jamal Shed at the 1, Jacoby at the 2, Grady at the 3, Colin Murray Boyles at the 4, Sandro at the 5. That's the initial, right? But you could easily put Colin Murray Boyles at the 5 and slide Ochai at the 4. You can move Grady up to the 2, Jamison to the 3, Ochai at the 4, Colin Murray Boyles at the 5. You could do that. You could also, again, in theory, you could, right? You could easily. I think the issue is that not a lot of these players can play the 1, so it's really going to be a good thing that these players are not going to play in hockey lineups, right? Because you happen to have 4 players in your starting lineup who can do a little bit of that. RJ has played occasional 1. Brandon Ingram has played point forward. Scotty has played point forward. So you have at least those 3 guys who can do that, and obviously Emmanuel Quickly. So you have 4 players who can lead with the basketball. You just need to put 4 players around them. They can handle lead initiator duties. Scotty can easily play the point. So you blend Scotty into this, and now Jamal Shed might play the off ball. He can do that because he's a good off ball player. He cuts. He has good screening instincts. May not be the biggest guy, but he crashes the glass. He runs in transition. He knows how to fill the wing. This is the good thing about high IQ players. They can play different spots on the court. So you have that. You also have the ability to go mega large. Mega large. So what if you want to make this very large? Let's put Scotty at the 1. Okay. Let's put Ochai at the 2. Now, let's put Jacoby at the 2, CMB at the 3, Mobo at the 4, Colin Murray Boyles. Wait. Let's go. You know what? Let's go Vision 6-9 with this. Let's go Scotty RJ, Ochai, Mobo, Colin Murray Boyles. How's that? Is that interesting? That's interesting because everyone like the same size, right? You could also run, as I said, you could run Ingram like as a point forward with this group, and he'll have great spacing around himself, and he'll have good defense to insulate him. There's a lot of value to being able to do this kind of stuff, right? So as I said, you have lineup flexibility, you have continuity. A lot of these guys have played together, and the guys who haven't played with them, like Sandro and Colin Murray Boyles, super high IQ guys that are coming in this summer. And obviously you have the Raptors basically running camp all summer. So they're getting these guys very connected, very connected. You have winning habits. Important. You have adopted players from winning programs. I would argue if I go through collegiate basketball over the last 3 years, hard to find 5 players who are more winning players than Jamal Shed and Elijah Martin. These are 2 consummate winners. These are guys who made deep tournament runs. And yeah, South Carolina didn't win, but Colin Murray is not a part of that. Everything he did was winning. Everything. Look at Colin Murray Boyles' tape at South Carolina. You will not find any losing habits in this guy. It's the same thing with Jonathan Mobley. You just don't have a lot of knuckleheads. You don't have knuckleheads. The absence of knuckleheads is a huge thing because you have winning habits. You have guys who buy in, guys who are known to have that sort of sacrificial attitude of anything for the team. That is good. It's good for chemistry. You have the potential growth. These guys are very young. You don't know who's going to pop off. I don't know who's going to pop off. I've gone through this entire offseason factoring Grady as like the 7th or 8th best player on this team. What if he's the 4th best player on this team? You can't tell me he can't be. And then there's the physicality. And I think that this is something that the Raptors are really focused on this year in the draft, but also last year in the draft. Jacoby is quite physical. Jamal Shed is very physical, right? And then you get CMB in there and you get Elijah Martin in there. I mean, your practices are going to be tough. These guys, there's something that often goes, I want to say, underappreciated, which is how much your second unit sharpens your first unit. If your second unit is good defensively, your first unit will be sharp offensively. I've always believed this. And I think that that is a huge benefit of the bench mob. Jakob Pertl, Pascal Siakam, those guys were sharpening the starters, in my opinion, or Serge Ibaka when it wasn't Siakam, right? Like if you were running Fred versus Kyle, you don't think Fred made Kyle a better player? If you play a scrimmage against Fred Van Vliet, most point guards are an easy, like it's easy to go up against them. It's very good. It's not all strengths. There's some weaknesses too. There's a lack of experience. I'll admit it. Not a lot of NBA experience on this bench. And I understand why a lot of people might dismiss that and say, well, let's be honest. We get very hyped about a lot of young players, lottery picks even, that don't really pan out, right? Let's just be real. Let's be real. I was very high on Bilal Coulibaly. Bilal Coulibaly has not been good so far in the NBA. Let's just be real. Some people were very high on Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller has been good, but he hasn't been very available. Jalen Johnson, anyone? 2021 draft. A lot of people very high on him. Hasn't played a lot of games, right? Young players is a little bit of hit and miss, right? You don't know when the regression is going to come. You don't know when the rookie wall is going to come. Sophomore wall is going to come. It's a good thing you have a lot of them. So if one of them is going through a bit of a slump, you can probably like play against it and go play someone else. And I think that it's important that the Raptors are not just 5 deep off the bench, but rather 8 deep, because that means there's going to be some internal competition. We'll get to that. There's a lack of rim protection. I think that that's pretty clear to anybody who really looks at that bench unit. There aren't any dominant shot blockers. There's nobody like Derek Lively. There's nobody even like Christian Koloko, unless Ulrich jumps up a level. This is not really a team off the bench that is going to be blocking a ton of shots. So I think that their pressure style, physical defense, and their help in the gaps and their switchability is going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting. I don't think rim protection is overrated. In fact, I think it is criminally underrated. So I do think that the Raptors will have some trouble because I think their 2 best rim protectors probably are Scotty Barnes and Jakob Pertl in terms of the players who actually play. So that could be tough. I think that's a fair criticism. You have a lack of isolation scoring. This is something that Samson's brought up several times in his podcast, something that I've also certainly noticed watching this team. You don't really have a lot of isolation scoring on this team at all, minus Brandon Ingram, who's a very good isolation scorer. So Ingram, Barnes to some extent in the mid post, RJ sometimes with the high pick and roll, quickly, maybe a little bit. If he's gotten a little bit better, I'm seeing a lot of Emmanuel Quickly workout tapes and scrimmage footage that he keeps posting, and he seems to be doing a lot more of this isolation scoring stuff. So this isn't going to be easy, right? It's not like I'm expecting Grady or Jacoby to just magically morph into great isolation players, but they do retain some potential to have some scoring chops in the isolation. So we'll see. But there, as of right now, I would not say you have anyone even as good as Jordan Clarkson coming off your bench in terms of isolation scoring. There's a lack of clear-cut backup point guard. I mean, I guess it is Jamal Shed by default, and I have a lot of hope in Jamal Shed. But if you're ranking out backup point guards across the league, especially when other teams are bringing like seasoned veterans and, like even someone like a Cole Anthony coming off the bench for the Milwaukee Bucks, I'll argue I prefer Jamal Shed, but I can acknowledge Cole Anthony is the more seasoned, better probably player right now, better shooter easily. So, there's that. And then there's skill set overlaps. There are a couple players that you would say do similar things. Like there's the Jonathan Mobo, Colin Murray Boyles equation. Even if I can really squint hard and tell you why they're very different players, they have similar limitations. They're neither of them are great shooters. Both of them are undersized. Neither of them are necessarily a 5, nor necessarily a 4, nor necessarily a 3. They're all multi-positional. There's a lot of skill overlap. And I could argue there's also a bit of skill overlap between Jacoby and Grady. So there's some weaknesses, and I think that they're fair. How about some projections? I think there's some really, as I mentioned before, there's some really good synergy in the blended lineups. Like you have like the opportunity to play your starters and mix it in with a little bit of your bench. And I think you get better. We've obviously noted that the starting lineup may have some defensive deficiencies with RJ Barrett unless he takes a really major step up. Well, easy fix. RJ gets a really quick hook. Jacoby comes in, and then when you do a swap at the second, at the second quarter mark, RJ comes back in and he cooks a little bit with the second unit. Easy swap, right? Jakob Poeltl could easily do a lot of work to stabilize the second unit. Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram could do a lot of work to stabilize the second unit. You can play 2 point guard lineups with the second unit between Emmanuel Quickley and someone like Emmanuel Quickley and Jamal Shed. You can play IQ off the ball where IQ gets more scoring touches. I just think Darko has a lot of stuff, at his disposal in terms of finding good blended lineups to match up with what other teams are doing defensively, but also to put some pressure on other teams offensively, because Jamal Shed and Emmanuel Quickley are fast, bro. Like this is fast. Like this is two of the fastest players in the league. I would argue 2 of the 20 fastest players in the league. These two are up there. And to put them both in the same backcourt, you can really speed up and down the court, especially if you decide to go mega small with those two. In certain lineups, it might make some sense if there's no dominant big on the court and you just want to push tempo with high IQ basketball players. You could easily go Shed, IQ, and then maybe with the wings, you go Ochai, Ingram, Scotty, like something like that. Like you'd be so fast up and down the court. You got sufficient shooting. You got a lot of, value there. I would say, speaking of, parity, like there's a lot of parity on this team. Yeah, sure. It's good for internal competition, right? There's no set, right? Like David Roddy coming in a 10-day exhibition, exhibit 10 contract. I think he's probably looking at someone like Ulrich, Elijah Martin, Jonathan Mobo. Like, y'all, I'm a better player than some of these guys. And he's not really wrong. Like, he's a more complete basketball player. He's probably better right now. David Roddy's a good basketball player. I really don't understand why he's not on an NBA team right now and why he's, trying out for an exhibit 10. And he's a pretty good basketball player. So you look at that and you look at Jonathan Mobo, Colin Boss, like there's a lot of internal competition. And, if you're looking at last year's team, like if you're Jamal Shed, you're playing by default. The minute they trade Davion, you got minutes, right? If you're Grady Dick, you've been anointed a starter, even though you did jack shit in your rookie season. I'm going to be just straight up. Like Grady was not great in his rookie season. He wasn't great last year either, but he just got minutes. He got to start every single game he played just by osmosis, just by virtue of existing. You get to start. Well, this year, if Grady Dick does not participate defensively and does not take a step up offensively, is there a chance that maybe Grady Dick is out of the rotation? It would suck. You certainly don't want that to happen. You spent the lottery pick on the guy, but it could happen because that's how much Ochai can push him. That's how much Jameson Battle can push him. There's no more free opportunity here, right? It's time to win. And winning might mean we shorten our rotation to 8-9 guys. And, Darko loses his mind Nick Nurse style. I doubt it, though. I doubt it. But these are not development reps anymore. There's no more free reps. And frankly, if Colin Murray-Boyles does not learn how to shoot, Colin Murray-Boyles is going down to the G League. Congratulations, CMB. So play or get the fuck off the court is going to be the mantra right from day one. And I think that's good for internal competition. I think it's good for practices. I think it's good for development. Valuable contracts, man. Don't lock into this roster. Don't lock in. Trade deadline could be fun. We could see some movement here. And these valuable contracts, guys like Ochai Abaji, guys like even Colin Murray-Boyles. Don't tell me a guy can't get traded in his rookie season. These are valuable contracts. They're small contracts, and they could be used for major upgrades or used as a part of a bigger deal, an RJ Barrett trade to bring in a Lauri Markkanen. So, it's a good thing that you don't have albatross contracts, but rather you have a dearth of valuable contracts on your bench. And I think that is important. Good synergy for Darko Ball. I often look at players and how they fit in with the style of offense or defense that you're trying to run. From what I have seen, from everything Darko developed last year, offensively and defensively, these players fit. They fit very well in terms of our defensive schemes. And don't let anybody tell you that the Raptors' defensive uptick last year was all because of weak schedule. You lost your best point of attack defender, Davion Mitchell, and you got better. You got better because you got more together, because your scheme was more coherent, and because your young players developed, frankly. And also because Grady Dick did not play. I think it's that simple. So you removed a very weak link, and you became the second best defense in the NBA after the All-Star break. That's not purely poor schedule. I'm sorry. That's not purely poor schedule. the Raptors got way better. And don't tell me it's all Scotty Barnes. It's not all Scotty Barnes, right? You were playing the likes of Cole Swider and Colin Castleton and Orlando Robinson even late in the season. Okay, you were playing G League talent. You were playing a lot of AJ Lawson. Not great defenders. Nobody I mentioned is a great defender by any means. I think it was more minutes for Mobo that helped, more minutes for Ochai, more minutes for Jacoby. These are good defenders, and these are players coming off your bench this year. And I just think that it's good in terms of, like how the Raptors want to play defensively, attacking the basketball, picking up some, tidbits from that OKC defense. I think that's really cool. I'll add in good off-ball options, little thing kings, the term used by Thinking Basketball to define Kyle Lowry, the little thing king. That always stuck with me, man. Little thing kings. I would, if I was a coach, I would be telling my kids to watch Kyle Lowry all the time. Like Lowry is just so great at doing all those little things. Well, you know what? So is CMB. So is Jacoby Walter. When there's a basketball, if it's a 50-50 ball, Jacoby on the ground. Those possessions count, man. They count. Today on the panel, we were talking about the difference between James Harden and Chris Paul, right? Now, James and Chris are united by a lot of things. They're both all NBA guards, both all-time greats, two of the best players to ever play their positions. And the question came down to who was better in the playoffs. And it's really interesting that both of them shoot 52% effective field goal percentage throughout their careers in the regular season. And yet, what's interesting is James goes from 52 to 50 in the playoffs, and Chris Paul goes from 52 to 53. And people are like, 3%? Yeah. When you break down 3% almost 2 decades, do you understand how much of a difference that makes? 3%, 3 effective field goal percentage. Oh my God. It makes a huge difference. It's the difference between winning and losing maybe 6 games. It's a massive thing. So the little stuff matters. And, your processing speed, your court mapping, your propensity to hold screens, set screens. I just think Colin Murray-Bost does all these little things. I think, Ochai, like the granular nature of Ochai Agbaji, right? Like this super athletic wing who shoots 42% from 3, is decent in isolation as a defender, but can actually defend the rim as a guard, can sprint in transition, is a good athlete. Yeah, there's a chance it all falls down, but it's also a chance he takes another step up. Like maybe we've redirected the man's career. Do we forget? The Raptors won a championship without a single lottery pick. Not one lottery pick on their team. The highest picked player was Kawhi Leonard. He was the 15th overall pick. Everybody else was picked after 15th. What's interesting to me is that you have a whole bunch of lottery talent on this team. You have Ochai Agbaji. You got Grady Dick. You got, I believe, Jacoby Walter, Masai Ujiri, and Bobby Webster on record. They would have picked him top 5. So I'm going to count him as a lottery pick for us. In terms of where he went, irrelevant. 19th is irrelevant. If we had the 13th pick, we're probably picking him. So therein lies, so much lottery talent. You got Scotty, you got Ingram, you got RJ, you got Jakob. Those are all lottery picks. You just got a lot of lottery talent, on this team. You got a lot of lottery talent. And some of that lottery talent is very young, very young. And you really can't tell me that Grady is any further behind than a lot of these all-star type of guards when they were 21, 22. His complexity of offense was so interesting and so difficult last year. Everything you say about Scotty navigated this much space or whatever, Scotty Barnes dealt with the same situation as everybody else here. Emmanuel Quickley played 33 games last year. RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl didn't crack 60 games last year. Scotty barely limped his ass to 65 games. You were missing a lot of players last year, and a lot of them were shut down because of tanking, rest, right? Players played lower minutes. So when people tell me, you really think Brandon Ingram's going to make a difference of 10 wins? No, I don't. I don't think Brandon Ingram's going to make a difference of 10 wins. I think he'll make a difference of at least 4 wins. I think CMB can add a couple. I think not having to play Colin Castleton and Orlando Robinson might be good for a couple. I think Scotty, Jacoby, and Grady improving might add a couple. You start adding two, and you add another 3, 4 for the East being bad. You'll understand why I said I think this team could win 50 games. So, as I said, good off-ball options. Here's the biggest swing factors. And I'm gonna salute the members. I should probably take a moment to just salute the members here and also announce some stuff. I got some good news and I got some bad news. But first, let's salute some members. Isaac Turner, Shout outs to you for becoming a PENSARE Basketball member. Apex Glass On. Shout outs to you for becoming a new YouTube member. Now, we launched memberships on August 15th. I got an email from YouTube on August 5th saying you should launch memberships. We're going to pay you X amount of money. And then from the day you launch, you have 30 days. And for every new member that signs up, you get $30. Now, this morning, I got an email telling me that YouTube is wrong or I'm wrong. Something is wrong. Because I was told this morning that gifted memberships don't count for the bonuses. So that was one kick in the gonads. And the second thing I was told in that email, which I have reached out to YouTube, but I don't think I'm going to get any positive response from this, is that I don't have 30 days from when we launched memberships, which was August 15th. I thought I had till September 15th. I was like, that's good, man. People aren't paying attention to the Raptors, but they'll start paying attention in the first week of September as we ramp up the preseason, probably pick up some memberships there. I woke up this morning thinking I was 37 members away from hitting my 100 member quota. Find out right now, not only do I not actually have 63 members because 26 of those memberships were gifted, but also found out that I don't have until September 15th. I only have till September 5th. So you'll bear with me if I do one live right now, one live tonight, probably one or two lives tomorrow, and maybe even a members only video. I'm gonna grind as hard as I possibly can for the next 48 hours to make sure we get as many memberships as possible, because this is free money being offered by YouTube to sign up members. And I appreciate everybody who has signed up. It's very meaningful to me. Thank you so much for doing this. But also, like, I thought I had till September 15th, and YouTube just pulled the rug out from underneath me, man. I'm so glad I launched at least on August 15th, because I was thinking of launching on September 2nd or something. And I was like, okay, well, if I launch September 2nd, I'll go right into the season. October 2nd, I was trying to map it out. I thought I was going to game the system, and fuck. Isaac Turner saying lock in chat. Yo, for sure. All right. And there will be a live tonight, and it will be a film breakdown of how Toronto can mimic OKC's defense. It's going to come up at 9 o'clock tonight. I'm going to work on it for a couple hours. I promise you, the next 24 hours, I'm grinding. I'm on the content grind game for the next 24 hours. Swing factors. We have to have swing factors. Pardon me for that shameless plug. CMB jumper. Man, this could change everything, couldn't it? Colin Murray-Boyles is, in my opinion, the perfect fifth starter for this team. As much as I would say, Jacoby's a great fifth starter, and yeah, the shooting alone. But CMB is such a great connector. He is such a good passer. He's a better passer than Jacoby. He's a better driver than Jacoby. He's bigger than Jacoby. He has better rim protection instincts than Jacoby. Rim protection is one of the biggest weaknesses on your roster. If I could change one thing about Colin Murray-Boyles, I'd make him a good shooter. Unfortunately, he's not a great shooter, but he does have great touch. He has great touch. And that touch, and not to mention the insane defensive versatility, the driving, the handle, the passing, make him a very good player. And if that jump shot ever comes around, he's going to be way too good to be coming off the bench next year. So I'm going to just let y'all know, Jacoby got, my vote of confidence 100% of the way through. I'm rooting for Jacoby about as much as I'm rooting for anybody on this team. But for real, like, Colin Murray-Boyles got it, man. Like, CMB and Jacoby, like, to me, is like, these two are going to be too good to not start if they become who I think they're going to become. So that could be huge. CMB jumper. Grady's defense. Again, it's like Grady's got everything going for him, right? He's a good movement shooter. He's a decent connective passer. He's a decent ball handler, not a hot sauce ball handler, but he's decent. He's not a bad ball handler. He has that mid-range stuff. He's throwing himself to the basket. If there's one thing two things I would fix. One is just getting him stronger, but that's going to come with age. He's already bulked up a little bit. Hopefully he doesn't lose all the weight again. But his defensive woes are really singular on this team. There is not one defender on this team who is even close to being the level of defensive liability he is. And it's not like, he does this thing well, so it's not so bad that he doesn't do this other thing well. There really isn't anything Grady can do well defensively. He's not a good rim protector. He's not a good screen navigator. He's not good in space. He's not great in transition. He's not the vertical athlete that can get at the rim. He's got some size and some wingspan to him, but it's not the overwhelming size and wingspan that someone like a Colin Murray-Boyles has. And so it's like, Cass saying RJ. RJ is nowhere near the level of defensive liability that Grady is, because RJ is staunch, he is strong, and I think, you know, if both of them locked in 100%, I think RJ still gets my vote. Like, he's still a little bit better. So again, Grady's defensive upgrade. Now, he's heard it. He's heard it in the exit interview. He's heard it all throughout the summer. If he's locked in at all on social media, he's had a lot of people writing him off because he's such a defensive liability. One thing I'll say, and this is something that comes down to environments, and this is something that comes down to life. It's very difficult to be the sloppy person in the neat office. It's very difficult to be the, you know, pig, binge eater, unhealthy person in the office full of fitness models. It's very difficult to do that. It's easier to deteriorate when your environment is dilapidated. And so, surrounded by positive defense, with a coach who is preaching defense all the time, with a franchise player who talks defense, breathes defense, sleeps defense, dreams defense, and Scotty Barnes, it's going to be very hard for Grady Dick to not stick out like a sore thumb. And now you have the benefit of a quick hook to make a point, not to penalize, not to punish, not to embarrass, but to make a point. If you are not going to play defense, your offense is no longer so singular and so unique that we need it, because we got Jamison Battle, we got Jacoby Walter, we got Brandon Ingram, we got RJ Barrett, and none of them are nearly as sorry defensively as you. So if Grady Dick actually wants to be a long-term NBA player, which I have no doubt he will be, but if he wants to be an upper rotation NBA player, especially if he wants to get a decent second contract, because he will be up for a second contract next offseason, this is a prove it year for Grady Dick. Year 3 is major, and he is going to have the first crack, because I believe, in terms of the pecking order, him, CMB, Jacoby, there's a heavy investment of first round picks in those guys. They're going to have the first chance to fail. Fail early enough, Grady, you will lose your spot and you may never get it back. It's a crazy thing about internal competition, but I think Grady Dick's got to improve defensively, and I don't think that's a secret to him or anybody else. Jonathan Mobo's finishing and strength. Look, man, I really do believe, Jonathan Mobo's defensive versatility is insane. And I think it's crazy to me. He was a better rookie defender than Scotty Barnes was, and Scotty was amazing as a rookie. And I'm being honest. I'm talking about my favorite player, so please, don't accuse me of bias. Jonathan Mobo was fucking revelation last year defensively. And I think if you take out the pick and roll, defense of Jacoby, I think Jacoby was a defensive revelation again last year too. It's very rare for a team to be buoyed defensively by rookies. But last year, between Shed's attention to detail, athleticism, doggedness on the ball, Jacoby's just persistence, relentless persistence of the basketball, ability to switch his hips, ability to recover in transition, just speed overall, and of course, Mobo's ability to blow things up. See, Mobo is not a block merchant. He is not a passing lane merchant. He is not a steals merchant. He's not going to rack up like 4 steals, 4 blocks every single game. No, he's not that type of defender. He's more of like a Rodman type of defender. You know what I mean? Like he got a little bit of Dennis Rodman in him. Like he's not nearly the rebounder that Dennis Rodman is, but like the one thing I can tell you as, a kid who grew up in the early 90s watching a little bit of Dennis Rodman and just kind of admiring him as a defender is like, if Rodman is on you, you should probably pass. And I think that's the thing I'd say. If Scotty or Mobo or, Colin Murray are on you, probably pass. Because while they may not block your shot, they may not steal your shot, their ability to contain you to the point of making you uncomfortable, bothering your handle, getting on your hip, getting into your body, pushing you off your spot, being strong enough, quick enough to move with you, is probably going to force you into a shot you probably don't want to take. And I think that is pretty much it. Look, I'll break it down like this. Too many people focus one-on-one defensively, right? But the defense is always a team thing. It's always going to be a team thing. And I'll bring you back to a play. This was a play in 2016 in the NBA playoffs. 89-89, Game 7. Kyrie Irving has Klay Thompson on him, right? So you got LeBron in the corner. Draymond Green is on him. You got Kyrie Irving dribbling the basketball. It's about 14 seconds on the clock. And Klay Thompson is guarding Kyrie. Now, this is, Klay Thompson in his defensive heyday at his peak. This is probably not a great matchup, although I trust Kyrie to be a better offensive player than Klay as a defensive player. This is not a favorable matchup. This is not the type of matchup you want to score over. And Draymond is probably a little too close to the paint, so seeing that Curry and Klay know this, if you go back and watch the play I'm talking about, you'll know exactly what I mean. There's a 2-person, 3-person dynamic in terms of the defensive coverage here, and how one is playing it impacts how the other plays it, right? So if Draymond is close enough to recover, Curry can get closer up. If Draymond is out of position, Curry has to back off. If Curry has to back off, Irving has the shot. He has a clear pocket. So Kyrie Irving forces, on a J.R. Smith screen, forces a switch onto Steph Curry, drags the ball a little bit away from LeBron James, who extends himself to the far corner. Draymond Green is there. So now Curry has like no help. If Kyrie Irving goes left, there's no rim protector there. None. Kevin Durant is still playing for the OKC Thunder. He's not there. Draymond Green is hugged to the corner. If Draymond Green collapses, there's 5 seconds on the clock. So if Curry wants to stop this, he really doesn't have a chance in hell of stopping the drive. And so he has to surrender the shot because the drive is going to be either an open drive to the basket for Kyrie Irving. And again, it's tie game, 89-89. So the score is not on your side if you're the Warriors on defense here. I think that the way to look at this play is not Kyrie versus Curry, but rather Kyrie versus Draymond. That's the best way to look at this. From a basketball perspective, you need to look at that play as Kyrie versus Draymond. That's the two major pieces that are playing, the guy with the basketball and the best defender. And so if you're LeBron James, you're a pawn in the scheme here. I hate to call one of the greatest players of all time a pawn in the scheme, but that's exactly what he is. He is a pawn in this overall scheme. He is a pawn. And so I think that what Colin Murray-Boyles and Jonathan Mobo and Scotty Barnes can do by being such switchable wing defenders who can guard up and down the floor in different positions, stay with their man, quick enough to, guard 3-4 different types, be guarded. They're not mismatches. So you never, ever have to worry about them being out of position. The best part about them is they also are good recovery defenders. So they have that great blend of, I can contain my man, even if I'm not going to block, shoot, shot block, whatever. I'm not going to steal the ball. I can contain my man. But if I'm out of position, I can also help the guy who falls out of position. And I think that those three are a cheat code. And having two of them on the court at the same time is probably a really, really good thing for the Raptors going forward, which is why I hope all three of them can learn how to shoot. Because the minute all three of those guys can learn how to shoot and they can actually play together, you have your own version of a death lineup, and it is scary, scary, scary shit. Tariq saying, what is Scotty's rating in 2K26 is 85. Embarrassing. 85. Not good. Continuing on. Jacoby Walters pick and roll defense. For whatever reason, he just wasn't great at navigating screens. It's not specific to the pick and roll. It's just in general. When he gets screened off, like he just falls, he dies, and he just wasn't strong enough. And that was the one thing he noticed it right away. Jacoby Walter with 15 pounds of strength is Jacoby Walter cheat code unlocked. There's really nothing wrong with this guy's game. I'm not saying he's the shiftiest guy off the handle, but he has enough creativity. I think we saw him a couple times, cook guys off the dribble. He's a good enough passer. He's not a great passer, but he's a good enough passer with both hands. He can do a little bit of that stuff. He's willing to pass. He's not a selfish player. He doesn't get tunnel vision. He's pretty relentless getting to the rim. But again, when he gets to the rim, very often before he gets there, he gets bumped off his spot, because that's what happens when you're a 19-year-old going up against grown men. So now you add some strength to this. Now you can push through those screens a little bit better. You add a little bit of experience. Now you understand the angle and how teams are, using you, and maybe in a better defensive context. The good defenders around him will also help him tremendously. But I think he was a good defender last year, and with a little bit more strength, it'll not only help him finish some of those drives to the basket that ended up short last year, it'll also help him finish through contact for some and ones. It'll probably allow him to press up more comfortably into his man defensively. It'll make him a better post defender. So if he ever gets cross matched in transition on a big, I'm not expecting him to do anything with Jokic and Embiid, But, maybe once in a while, if you get cross matched onto a Carlton Towns, you can maybe offer 3 seconds more resistance than you could before. And he's really capable of getting a ton of charges and stuff like that. So I just think Jacoby has the potential to be like the just an I think he has the potential to be a relentless defender. Like I don't want to say all league defender because I realize how great some of the defenders in this league are. But if there was a third team, fourth team defense, I put him on it as early as year 4, year 5. He's really got some special chops defensively. Moving on to Jamal Shedd's jumper, it's just so important, right? Jamal is such a good playmaker, and he has a really, really good head for the game. Like he is so far beyond, rookie. Like he didn't remind me of a rookie at all, and he's so mature off the court, and he has such good motor on the ball, like defensively. He's good at recovering to corners, even though he's like somewhat miniature. It's weird calling him miniature, given he's an inch and a half taller than me, but whatever. Jamal is not a big guy. He's not. He doesn't have those craziest long arms. He's 6'1", but he doesn't have like the 6'10", reach that Spider Mitchell has. But he has athleticism, he has speed, he has intelligence, he has a lot of Lowryisms. Lowry's career turned around when he learned how to shoot. Jamal Shedd's career will absolutely blossom to the next level the minute he learns how to shoot. So I have a feeling that if he can shoot, he's got backup point guard stamped. Ulrich mega jump, that could be such a huge swing factor for this team, man. I mean, it kind of helps that you have, Sandro Mamukelashvili there because if Ulrich is not ready at all, then you really don't need him because Sandro is more than capable role player in the NBA. I'm not saying he's a star, a mega star, permanent staple. That's why he's on a minimum contract, but he's serviceable. But Ulrich is like such a mystery box, right? Like he's so interesting. He's got so many good instincts. Good screener, solid, right? Good roller, good athlete, good in transition, good offensive rebounder, good shot blocker, good touch, decent touch, right? Like could get better, but he's shown some ability to shoot free throws. He's not a non-shooter. There's so many of these like run jump athletic bigs who just brick at the line and brick, anything outside of 2 feet. Ulrich is showing like a tremendous capacity for growth, learning, development, and given where he is in his basketball journey right now, there's no reason to not believe that he will be the most improved Raptor next year because he's just that young and that hardworking that he probably will be the most improved. The difference is, or the problem is here, is like even the most improved comes down to most improved from what? To use 2K ratings, if Ulrich was a 62 last year, him being a 70 is very improved, but does it make him better than Sandro Mamukelashvili? No, right? So if he takes a mega jump, though, and again, with young players, you just never know, right? Hakeem took a mega jump. Shaq took a mega jump. Shaq from year 1 to year 2 at LSU was a completely different player, right? Completely different player. I saw 3 different versions of Ulrich last year, and it's really unfortunate that we didn't get to see like that third player really take off. But we saw it in the summer league, man. We saw so many good moments in the summer league. We saw it early in the G League last year. I've heard so many good things about him. So, if he could take a mega jump, he's a player you don't have on this team. Simply put, you don't have a shot blocking big on this team. You don't have that mega rim protector. You don't have the mega, roll man, like the rim athlete, like that rim attacking roll big. You just don't have that. Yak is more finesse, right? Mamukelashvili is more finesse, but that kind of attack the rim, relentless pick and roll, like he just darting bullet to the rim. If he could ever learn how to play basketball, man, Ulrich is going to be scary, scary. So he's awesome. Uh, Sandro's defense, like, I don't want to misrepresent Sandro Mamukelashvili and tell you he's a bad defender. He's not a bad defender at all. He's a pretty good defender, but he is limited. He is limited. And, he has limitations in space, right? If he gets stretched out and he's asked to be a switch big, he's commendable, but he's not great. He's not the most fleet of foot. He doesn't really have a dominant zone or a dominant role that he plays defensively. And one could argue that there are several bigs that could pretty much make him rotisserie chicken, right? So I think, it would be great if he could become a better defender this year as well. And Ochai and Battle's still snipers. And you know what? Like these two guys were such great shooters last year. It really helped with the spacing, which obviously for the Raptors last year, spacing was hard to come by. And I just think that, if these two can continue to shoot north of 40% from three, it just, even if they're not like playing 25 minutes a night, whatever, doesn't matter. The ability to have it, it's like a little bit like on a night where RJ doesn't have the shot going, Scotty's not shooting well, Ingram's not shooting well, Grady's kind of cold. The ability to go to the end of your bench and find a specialist, especially a specialist with generalist abilities. Like, they're not one-dimensional players. Ochai and Jameson are not one-dimensional players. They're multifaceted players that do a lot of good things, but that cheat code of spacing that you need, like for RJ drives, Ingram post-ups, Scotty drives, IQ, downhill attacks, the IQ pick and roll. Like here's the thing. Like, I broke it down, the other day when I was talking about the triangle offense, and it's like three guys form a triangle and two guys play two-man off the ball. Well, again, like, we're not saying run pick and roll, possessions with Jameson Battle, right? As your screener or your ball handler, but his ability to move, relocate, read situations, crash, cut, catch and shoot off the dribble, he is just not a player you can leave. So in a lot of ways, like the Kyrie Irving example against Steph Curry that I mentioned earlier, he in this situation would be the guy stretching that great defender out to the wing and offering like the clearest pocket. And several times last year with both Ochai and Jameson Battle, you do pick up on high basketball IQ. Like, there'll be a situation where Scotty get trapped and boom, they'll come across. Or they're not stagnant is what I'm saying. Like, they're not one-dimensional shooters, and they're certainly both guys who can, neither one of them necessarily, especially Ochai, doesn't necessarily project to be as good a shooter as Jacoby, in my opinion. Like, there's a lethal weapon level, element to Jacoby because he is, able to push it off the drive. I don't think you can close out on him as haphazardly and just run him off the line. He does have a little bit of that mid-range stuff, which is what makes, Grady so special. So I think if I'm like kind of ranking out these four shooters, I would probably rank it as like Jacoby, Grady, Battle, Ochai. And then I'm probably thinking if I read the numbers, I wouldn't be surprised if Ochai was the highest percentage 3-point shooter. You got options, is what I'm saying. You got four guys who can really, really shoot, and they shoot in different ways. They shoot from different areas. They have, some ability to play together. You can play two or three of them together. And then of course you got a Quickly, who is a great movement shooter. I mean, you really do have like a lot of shooting on this team. So again, I rebuke, I detest, I reject this notion that the Raptors are top heavy and, they don't have a bench and what are they doing? No, they have a bench. You just don't care about it. You haven't heard about them. You don't watch them. And I think that that's a really major thing. So I want to talk about a couple things quickly before we get out of here. Number one, there will be a live coming up at 9. I got to work on that from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So I'm gonna take 30 minutes off right now and then get to working on the film breakdown for that live, and promise it will be cool. We had a long discussion today about on the panel. Shout outs to you guys if you have watched it. About like what is the role of an analyst? How much basketball should people who talk about basketball actually watch, etc. And I was dissecting Shaquille O'Neal, and I said, Shaq, it's kind of embarrassing that Shaq gets paid $15 million a year to watch basketball and then doesn't watch basketball, doesn't watch Detroit, doesn't watch this. I think it's really important that we get away from this mentality of like mimicking or parroting other people's takes, right? Because everybody is playing broken telephone with information that they don't objectively have and did not really earn themselves. Everybody looks at the Toronto Raptors and says, "Oh, it's a 30-win team." You have no idea the context of those 30 wins. You have no idea how they got them. Ingram ain't going to bring them to the playoffs. How many people do I know? How many intelligent people do I know that still have the Raptors finishing outside the playoffs this year? What are we doing here? What are we doing with our lives? Like, you haven't watched 2 games of this team play last year, but you're going to tell me about how good a player Scotty Barnes is. Please miss me with that bullshit, right? It's so easy to catch these people in their lies and their bullshit so often. Just tell them something that happened last year and watch them nod along and then explain to them that it never actually happened, that you were just joking. These things, like, look, I'll be honest, like, nobody on earth that I know of, I don't want to say that. No single person with a normal life can watch 82 games of every single team play. But can we be for real here? If you're going to talk about a team, I want to know that you watched at least 14 to 15 games of that team. If you haven't, I need you to admit it. And there's a couple times where I've had to admit that I haven't watched a particular team play more than 15 times. So sometimes I'll be like, I only watched 10 games of the Hawks, or I've only watched 8 games of the Chicago Sky. And people be like, oh, you're an idiot. Blah, 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 blah. You're such a moron. How can you talk about it's like, bitch, shut the hell up. I watched 10 games with a notepad. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't watch 10 games while I was cooking up pasta and it was just on in the background. I didn't watch 10 games while I was scrolling Instagram. I actually watched 10 games. And I think that's actually pretty decent. And I find it so irritating and so funny how many times someone will make fun of me for watching only 10 Atlanta Hawks games, but having a really strong opinion about Jalen Johnson and Trey Young and DeJounte Murray. But then the same people who are making fun of it will talk about the Raptors, and I'll bet my life they haven't watched 2 games of the Raptors play. Come on now. Come on now. So I think that, if you're going to talk shit about a team, at least, come correct. It's possible I'm wrong about this team. It's possible this team falls in his face. I wouldn't bet it. I wouldn't bet it, though. I would not bet that this team is going to fail. And when they succeed, I will look forward to telling a whole bunch of people, I told you so. But it'll feel so hollow. It's not even a rich told you so, because I'm watching a team and you're not watching them, and I'm telling you things about them that you objectively don't know, because you can't know because you didn't watch this team. And I don't sit there and judge people for not watching Raptor games last year. I have friends in my life who swear they're Raptor diehards. And if you put them under oath, how many full Raptor games did you watch last year? 15 max. 3, some of them. 5, 6. So you don't have an educated opinion about who Jonathan Mobo is. All you know is what the morons on, some network said about him not being able to shoot and him being Scotty's friend. Look, watch enough Raptors content. I know a lot of Raptor content creators, that do good work. I'm gonna give a big shout out to one of the Raptor content creators who does a good amount of work. Good work. I'm watching his stuff lately. Raptor Shack. Shout outs to Raptor Shack. Give me W if you know who Raptor Shack is. That dude's creating good content, man. He has about 250 subscribers. I implore you, go check out Raptor Shack. He has a good video on Jacoby Walter. It's insightful, man. It was well done. As a content creator, I know how much time it takes to make content. So, you know, whatever disagreement I could possibly have with someone like Samson Folk or Espandera Bahani or Louis Zatzman or whatever, at least I'll always have the respect that they do their work. Do your work. Do your fucking work. If you're a content creator, if you're an analyst, if you're a scout, whatever you are, just do your work. I can't stand lazy people. I'm gonna be honest, I can't stand lazy people. And sometimes you dig deep into your psychology and you say, why can't I stand lazy people? And it's like, you're telling me something about myself. Sometimes you can't stand people because they're doing something, and it's like, when I do lazy things, and I have done lazy things, believe me, I have throughout my life. I've been lazy with homework. Sometimes I've been lazy with my work. I've been lazy with my job. I've been lazy with content creation, and I can't stand it. Ugh, I hate it. I hate when I'm lazy. I wake up mad at myself when I know that I didn't put the right amount of effort. Like, if someone hires me to do a job and I don't do it well. I have not been keeping up with Eurobasket, just so we're clear. I have not been keeping up with Eurobasket. I haven't been watching all the games. I watched 2 games of Serbia. I plan to lock in, when the group play ends. And yesterday, Ron messages me from PC, and he's like, "Yo, we're gonna be discussing Eurobasket tomorrow." So what's my thought process here? It's 11:30 at night. I want to go to sleep. It's 11:30, and I know the panel is on at 11 a.m. So what's the process? Lazy process. I will bet my life that I've watched more, or not bet my life. I'm pretty sure I've watched more of the Eurobasket than anyone who's going to be on the panel. So I'll just talk from what I know. I'll bullshit the rest, and no one will know that I don't know what I don't know. Or it's 11:30 right now. Give up a little bit of sleep. Spend the next 3 to 4 hours and go watch as much Turkey, Georgia, Finland, Spain, everything you can to be as well researched. I am paid to be on the panel for 3 hours. But when a show like this comes up, even if not a lot of people watched it today because there was only 800 people in there because Mars was off or whatever, I don't care. I want to know that the 800 people in there are getting a well researched, well balanced opinion. My first ever video on this channel was, the Pensare Basketball, channel preview or whatever, channel trailer. And I said, we may not always agree, but I will do my best to be well researched and I'll be one of the best, whatever, whatever. But that was an agreement. That's a covenant that I make with myself. And when I break that covenant, I feel bad. So, definitely shout outs to Raptor Shack. Shout out to Raptor Shack. Shout outs to Louis Statsman and Samson Folk and, people who actually do the work. Because you know what? Trust me, as someone who does the work, when I do the work and you haven't done the work, it is so blatantly obvious. And the talking points that you repeat of like Mobo is not a this and CMB, he can't even shoot. And it's just I know you use ChatGPT for this, bro. Like, yeah, shout out. Esfandiar Barhani is solid for sure. For sure. And you know what? Like when you're lazy, you're not really you're not cheating other people. You're cheating yourself. You're absolutely cheating yourself. You're getting the least amount that you can possibly get from this. I view the panel not as an obligation or a job, but rather an opportunity. It is an opportunity to learn, grow, listen, and expand my mind as a basketball content creator. It may not always be the friendliest conversations that we have over on that platform, but it is definitely stretching my mind to think about things that I don't really think about, the history of the game. I'm definitely more researched and aware on the history of the game than I was 2 years ago because of the panel. It's great, you know? And last night at 11:30, I had an opportunity to learn about Eurobasket more than I've been paying attention to instead of doing my catch up, bullshit. And this past year, because of Pensar Basketball, I got to learn a ton about a bunch of collegiate players, a lot of whom are going back to college basketball this year. So that to me is like it's a covenant with yourself. You do it, don't be lazy. Shout outs to Raptor Shack, not being lazy, making good content, not just fluff bullshit on YouTube. I appreciate that. I will also say that I have been on a tear the last 13, 14 days. So give myself a little pat on the back here. I've been, and I'm sharing this partially because I hope actually that it will help other people as well. There's no feeling that I have in the morning than waking up knowing that I did what was necessary the previous day to set myself up for today. And I think you know it when you do it, and you know it when you don't. Um, I have a curvature in my spine over the last, couple of years, sitting lot, pandemic, last 5 years or so. I've been doing so much sitting, not enough walking, not enough exercise, all that stuff. So like 15, 16 days ago, I started looking at myself and be like, okay, I got to fix this. I got to fix this. I got to fix the scars. I talked about that. I got to, fix this and that. I got to get into the gym. I got to do all this. I got to cut out the sugar, cut out this, cut out that. I remember I made, no sugar challenge for July and August for this channel. Shout out to you that participated. And I was like looking into this, and then last night, and I also mentioned the face shape thing. I think I mentioned it a few lives ago where I said like, I went to a film festival and I saw myself from the side of the face, and I was like, shit, my chin is falling in on itself. What am I doing here? So I am doing work every single day to improve on that. I'm doing work every single day to improve my mind. I am meditating every single day, which is dope. I'm going to the gym 4 times a week. We just cleared out our apartment of a whole bunch of clutter yesterday, and my girlfriend and I have literally never been happier as a couple. Like we are very happy right now. I launched the YouTube memberships. I am getting myself right mentally. I think my panel appearances have been much better. And last night I was like, you know what? I refuse the spine thing. I refuse to just ruin my posture. I'm going to fix it. And so I researched ways to fix my posture in my sleep. And there's like stuff with the pillow and how you sleep. And I'm a stomach sleeper, which is like the worst possible thing you can do for, bad posture. And so this morning I woke up and I was like, I just spent 6.5 hours sleeping, which is not a lot. I spent 6.5 hours sleeping and I actually made a 0.1% dent on my bad posture. That's great. I'm very proud of that. So, moving in the right direction is amazing because when you start to fix one thing in your life, it's as simple as sorting out a drawer, man. It's as simple as throwing out some stuff. It's as simple as going through your sock drawer and discarding the ripped socks. It's crazy how that momentum starts to build and build. And then, you know, you'll never encounter a person in your life more miserable than the person who's not taking care of things. So, the only way in my opinion, to just be happy is to take care of your shit. And I'll leave you with a final thing, which I hope can be valuable for you. And something that I just discovered yesterday is called the 5-5 rule. W in the chat, if you've heard about the 5-5 rule. This is great. And it's been very freeing for me. If it won't matter 5 years from now, don't spend 5 minutes worrying about it. That's the 5-5 rule. It's a great rule, man. Someone pissed you off in the chat. Mm-mm. I won't remember this 2 days from now. Why would I? I would definitely not remember this 5 years from now. Oh, there's a bill that's, a little bit over. There's a paycheck that came in a little bit low. There's a disagreement with a partner over, the cleanliness of the house or who was supposed to do what, or don't sweat the small stuff. Like, people have been telling me this for, I think people have been talking about this for centuries now. Don't sweat the small stuff. I feel like Socrates would have said, don't sweat the small stuff. But it's just such a good reminder, if it won't matter 5 years from now, don't spend 5 minutes worrying about it today, because worrying is one of the biggest sources of stress, and stress is one of the biggest sources of death. Stress is the biggest source of, cancer, diabetes. There's so many things that come on because of stress. So when your body is stressed, it is not in recovery. It is, clamped up. It's not good. You age faster. You look older. Don't be stressed. Chill out. But don't be chill out to the point of like neglecting your priorities. If your child is sick, take care of it. If your mother is sick, take care of it. These are things that will matter 5 years from now if you don't take care of them. But that passerby, that random troll on Twitter, that won't matter 5 years from now. So let it go. And, hopefully, someone reached out to me the other day and they were like reaching out from Spain. Shout outs to them, somewhere from Europe. And they were talking about how sometimes if I lose my shit in the chat or, if I, say something about another content creator, that really distracts from what I'm trying to do. And I was the first person to just be like, yeah, I agree. 100% I agree. Please let me know if I do it again. And hopefully, that's something that I have to remind myself many, many times when I do this is calm, before we do these lives. Not calm to the point of sleepiness, but calm before we do these lives. And then, of course, as we are doing them, if there is a person who is just spamming, trolling, whatever, it's just you got to remind yourself you are not going to think about this troll 5 years from now. Don't spaz out for 5 minutes. So appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Very, very much. Oak Tree, shout outs, 34. It's funny, 34 days till the Raptors play basketball. How's that for funny? I've been doing this thing on X, posting a different picture of a different player every single day or a series of players with the numbers. Today we posted a picture of Charles Oakley saying 34 days. 34 days until the Toronto Raptors play basketball. Any guesses on who tomorrow's athlete is going to be? Let me know in the comments below if you know who number 33 and number 32 and number 31 are going to be. I certainly know right now who those players are going to be, but I'm curious if y'all know. Cass saying, Rob, you gotten so much better at dealing with trolls. Such a big change. Yes, thank you. Antonio Davis. I actually don't have the most positive thoughts about Antonio Davis, but he will definitely not. I mean, he's certainly in consideration for it, but there might be another guy. There might be another guy. The Antonio Davis thing is so funny. I'm still salty about the metric system thing. I don't know why. It's so silly. I should probably let that go. AD was great. AD was awesome. Anyways, I'll talk to y'all later. Enjoy. And thank you so, so much to Isaac Turner, Apex Glass On, and Oak Tree 34. And also a very big shout out to our 5 VIP members. Where the hell are you? Susan Garrett, Springer, Stanley Kurian, Pepperjack, and Karen Hall. Reminder once again, we have 2 days, 2 days to get as many memberships as we can. So if you're someone who's, under the impression that I was under, September 15th, 16th, whatever I'd said initially, we do not have that long. YouTube pulled the rug out from underneath my feet, but I will do what I can with it. And also, final thing is perspective, right? I was not expecting to get a bonus for starting memberships. I was not expecting to receive membership bonuses or whatever. So yeah, there was a part of me that, this morning was a little bit like, what the do you mean like gifted memberships don't count towards the bonus? What do you mean I only have 5 more days? And then I just stopped and think like, how amazing is it that so many people decided to become members of this community? How amazing is it that I get to be a content creator, for a living? How great is it that, all of this is so great. It's awesome. It's awesome. So thank you so so much to all of you who have done this for us. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Bye bye.